Why does a boomerang return to its thrower?
Two well-known scientific principles dictate the characteristic flight of a boomerang. 1. The force of lift on a curved surface caused by air flowing over it. And, 2. The unwillingness of a spinning gyroscope to move from its position. When a person throws a boomerang properly, he or she causes it to spin vertically. As a result, the boomerang will generate lift, but it will be to one side rather than upwards. As the boomerang spins vertically and moves forward, air flows faster over the top arm at a particular moment than over the bottom arm. Accordingly, the top arm produces more lift than the bottom arm and the boomerang tries to twist itself. But because it is spinning fast, it acts like a gyroscope and turns to the side in an arc. If the boomerang stays in the air long enough, it will turn a full circle and return to the thrower. Every boomerang has a built-in orbit diameter, which is not affected by a person throwing the boomerang harder or spinning it faster.
What are the stages of labor?
The goal of labor is the birth of a new baby. Labor is divided into 3 stages: 1. Dilation, 2. Expulsion, and 3. Placental. Delivery of the fetus occurs during expulsion.
What 2 functions are performed by the ear?
The ear has 2 functions: hearing and maintaining equilibrium or balance.
What is the difference between porpoises and dolphins?
Marine dolphins, family Delphinidae, and porpoises, family Phocinidae, together comprise about 40 species. The chief differences between dolphins and porpoises occur in the snout and teeth. True dolphins have a beak-like snout and cone-shaped teeth. True porpoises have a rounded snout and flat or spade-shaped teeth.
How many miles of blood vessels are contained in the body?
If they could be laid end to end, the blood vessels, arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, and veins would span about 60,000 miles, 96,500 kilometers. This would be enough to encircle the Earth more than 2 times.
Where is the oldest operational nuclear power plant in the United States?
The oldest operational plant in the United States is the Oyster Creek, New Jersey, plant. It became operational on December 1, 1969. The original license for the Oyster Creek power plant was scheduled to expire on April 9, 2009. On April 8, 2009, the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission approved a 20-year license extension until April 9, 2029. The 9 Mile Point Unit 1 also became operational on December 1, 1969. Its original license was to expire on August 22, 2009. But on October 31, 2006, the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission granted a 20-year extension to its license, extending it to August 22, 2029. Since the license for Oyster Creek was issued before the license for 9 Mile Point, Oyster Creek is officially the oldest operating U.S. reactor.
What is a Lewis acid?
Named after the American chemist Gilbert Newton Lewis, 1875 to 1946. The Lewis theory defines an acid as a species that can accept an electron pair from another atom, and a base as a species that can donate an electron pair to complete the valence shell of another atom. Hydrogen ion, proton, is the simplest substance that will do this. But Lewis acids include many compounds such as boron trifluoride, BF3, and aluminum chloride, AlCl3, that can react with ammonia, for example, to form an addition compound or Lewis salt.
What are the 4 groups of seedless, vascular plants?
The seedless, vascular plants include ferns of the genus Pterophyta, which is the largest group, the whisk ferns of the genus Xylophyta, the club mosses of the genus Lycophyta, and the horsetails of the genus Arthrophyta.
What is nearsightedness?
Nearsightedness, or myopia, is the ability to see close objects but not distant ones. It is a defect of the eye in which the focal point is too near the lens end. The image is focused in front of the retina when looking at distant objects. This condition is corrected by concave lenses, eyeglasses or contact lenses that diffuse the light rays coming to the eyes so that when the light is focused by the eyes it reaches the proper spot on the retinas. Approximately 25% of Americans are nearsighted.
Which radioisotope is most commonly used for biological specimens?
The most widely used radioisotope in autoradiography is tritium, 3H. Tritium allows a resolution of about 1 micrometer with the light microscope and close to 0.1 micrometer with the electron microscope. Since hydrogen is common in biological molecules, a wide range of 3H labeled compounds are potentially available for use in autoradiography. 3H amino acids are used for locating newly synthesized proteins. 3H thymidine is used to monitor DNA synthesis. Ribonucleotides such as 3-uridine or 3H-cytidine are used to localize newly made RNA molecules. And 3H-glucose is used to study the synthesis of polysaccharides.
How are colored fireworks made?
Fireworks existed in ancient China in the 9th century where saltpeter, potassium nitrate, sulfur, and charcoal were mixed to produce the dazzling effects. Magnesium burns with a brilliant white light and is widely used in making flares and fireworks. Various other colors can be produced by adding certain substances to the flame. Strontium compounds color the flame scarlet, barium compounds produce yellowish green. Copper produces a blue-green, lithium creates purple, and sodium results in yellow. Iron and aluminum granules give gold and white sparks, respectively.
What is La Nina?
La Nina is the opposite of El Niño. It refers to a period of cold surface temperatures of the tropical Pacific Ocean. La Nina winters are especially harsh with heavy snowfall in the northeastern United States and rain in the Pacific Northwest.
What is Moore's law?
Gordon Moore, 1929, co-founder of Intel, a top microchip manufacturer, observed in 1965 that the number of transistors per microchip and hence a chip's processing power would double about every year and a half. The press dubbed this Moore's law, despite claims that this ever-increasing trend cannot perpetuate. History has shown that microchip advances are, indeed, keeping pace with Moore's prediction.
What are the hamstring muscles?
There are 3 hamstring muscles, located at the back of the thigh. They flex the leg on the thigh, such as when one kneels. They also extend the hip whenever one, for example, sits in a chair. Hamstring injuries are probably the most common muscle injury among runners. Maintaining flexibility and strengthening the muscle helps to prevent injury. Hamstring muscles are also prone to rangery.
Do you really hear the ocean when you hold a seashell to your ear?
Although the sounds heard in a seashell are reminiscent of hearing the ocean, in reality they are ambient. Soft sounds that have been resonated and thereby amplified by the seashell's cavity. The extreme sensitivity of the human ear to sound is illustrated by the seashell resonance effect.
How are coral reefs formed and how fast are they built?
Coral reefs grow only in warm, shallow water. The calcium carbonate skeletons of dead corals serve as a framework, upon which layers of successively younger animals attach themselves. Such accumulations, combined with rising water levels, slowly lead to the formation of reefs that can be hundreds of meters deep and long. The coral animal, or polyp, has a columnar form. Its lower end is attached to the hard floor of the reef, while the upper end is free to extend into the water. A whole colony consists of thousands of individuals. There are two kinds of corals, hard and soft, depending on the type of skeleton secreted. The polyps of hard corals deposit around themselves a solid skeleton of calcium carbonate. Chalk, so most swimmers see only the skeleton of the coral. The animal is in a cup-like formation into which it withdraws during the daytime. The major reef builder in Florida and Caribbean waters, Montas triannularis. Star coral, requires about 100 years to form a reef just 3 feet, 1 meter, high.
What is Maxwell's demon?
An imaginary creature who, by opening and shutting a tiny door between two volumes of gases, could, in principle, concentrate slower molecules in one, making it colder, and faster molecules in the other, making it hotter, thus breaking the second law of their thermodynamics. Essentially, this law states that heat does not naturally flow from a colder body to a hotter body. Work must be expended to make it do so. This hypothesis was formulated in 1871 by James C. Maxwell, 1831 to 1879, who is considered by many to be the greatest theoretical physicist of the 19th century. The demon would bring about an effective flow of molecular kinetic energy. This excess energy would be useful to perform work and the system would be a perpetual motion machine. About 1950, the French physicist Léon Brillouin, 1889 to 1969, disproved Maxwell's hypothesis by demonstrating that the decrease in entropy resulting from the demon's actions would be exceeded by the increase in entropy in choosing between the fast and slow molecules.
What is the central processing unit of a computer?
The central processing unit, CPU, of a computer is where almost all computing takes place in all computers including mainframes, desktops, laptops, and servers. The CPU of almost every computer is contained on a single chip.
What is cell cloning and how is it used in scientific research?
Cell cloning is the process by which an exact copy is made of a cell. This cellular process is known as mitosis and is required for the growth and repair of multicellular organisms. Different types of cells in the body differ in their ability to perform mitosis. Some cells, like skin cells, produce clones quite often. Others, like those of the nervous system, will not reproduce after they have reached maturity and have differentiated. The scientific purpose of cloning is to produce many copies of certain types of cells, which can then be used for a variety of purposes, like basic research or the growth of replacement organs.
Which countries produce the most commercial nuclear power?
The United States produced the most commercial nuclear power in 2008. However, the percentage of electricity power by nuclear energy is greater for other countries.
Which astronauts have walked on the moon?
"12 astronauts have walked on the moon. Each Apollo flight had a crew of 3. One crew member remained in orbit in the Command Service Module (CSM), while the other 2 actually landed on the moon. Apollo 11, July 16 to 24, 1969. Neil A. Armstrong, Edwin E. Aldrin Jr., Michael Collins, CSM pilot, did not walk on the moon. Apollo 12, November 14 to 24, 1969. Charles P. Conrad, Alan L. Bean, Richard F. Gordon Jr., CSM pilot, did not walk on the moon. Apollo 14, January 31 to February 9, 1971. Alan B. Shepard Jr., Edgar D. Mitchell, Stuart A. Roosa, CSM pilot, did not walk on the moon. Apollo 15, July 26 to August 7, 1971. David R. Scott, James B. Irwin, Alfred M. Worden, CSM pilot, did not walk on the moon. Apollo 16, April 16 to 27, 1972. John W. Young, Charles M. Duke Jr., Thomas K. Mattingly, 2, CSM pilot, did not walk on the moon. Apollo 17, December 7 to 19, 1972. Eugene A. Cernan, Harrison H. Schmidt, Ronald E.
What is the density of air?
The density of dry air is 1.29 grams per liter at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. At average sea level and a barometric pressure of 29.92 inches of mercury, 760 millimeters.
What is energy?
Physicists define energy as the capacity to do work. Work is defined as the force required to move an object some distance. Examples of the different kinds of energy are heat energy, light energy, mechanical energy, potential energy, and kinetic energy. The law of the conservation of energy states that within an isolated system, energy may be transformed from one form to another, but it cannot be created nor can it be destroyed.
What were the goals of the Montreal Protocol?
The Montreal Protocol was signed in 1987 by members of the United Nations to phase out and reduce production of CFCs and other ozone-damaging chemicals by 50% by 1998. Amendments and revisions to the Montreal Protocol were made in 1990, 1992, and 1997 to include other chemicals and accelerate the phase-out of certain chemicals. Production of CFCs, carbon tetrachloride, and methyl chloroform was phased out by 1996 in the United States and other highly developed countries.
Who invented stainless steel?
Metallurgists in several countries developed stainless steel, a group of iron-based alloys combined with chromium in order to be resistant to rusting and corrosion. Chromium was used in small amounts in 1872 to strengthen the steel of the Eads Bridge over the Mississippi River. But it wasn't until the 1900s that a truly rust-resistant alloy was developed. Metallurgists in several countries developed stainless steel between 1903 and 1912. An American, Elwood Haynes, 1857 to 1925, developed several alloy steels and in 1911 produced stainless steel. Harry Brearley, 1871 to 1948, of Great Britain receives most of the credit for its development. In 1913, he discovered that adding chromium to low-carbon steel improved its resistance to corrosion. Frederick Beckett, 1875 to 1942, a Canadian-American metallurgist. And German scientists Philipp Monartz and W. Borchers were among the early developers.
How many meteorites land on Earth in a given year?
Approximately 26,000 meteorites, each weighing over 3.5 ounces. 99.2 grams, land on Earth during a given year. 3,000 of these meteorites weigh more than 2.2 pounds, 1 kilogram. This figure is compiled from the number of fireballs visually observed by the Canadian Camera Network. Of that number, only 5 or 6 falls are witnessed or cause property damage. The majority fall in the oceans, which cover over 70% of Earth's surface.
What is an estuary?
Estuaries are places where freshwater streams and rivers meet the sea. The salinity of such areas is less than that of the open ocean but greater than that of a typical river. So organisms living in or near estuaries have special adaptations. Estuaries are rich sources of invertebrates, such as clams, shrimps, and crabs, as well as fishes such as striped bass, mullet, and menhaden. Unfortunately, estuaries are also popular locations for human habitation and businesses. Contamination from shipping, household pollutants, and power plants are carried to the sea by rivers and streams and threaten the ecological health of many estuaries.
How prevalent is back pain in the United States?
Studies have found that low back pain is the most common source of pain. It is also the leading cause of disability in Americans under 45 years old. Back pain may be the result of an injury or associated with certain diseases and conditions. Some conditions and diseases which may cause back pain are scoliosis, arthritis, spinal stenosis, pregnancy, kidney stones, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, infections, tumors, or stress. Tense muscles, spasms, ruptured discs, and other disc problems are also causes of back pain. Exercise, a diet to maintain a healthy weight, and learning to lift properly will prevent back pain.
What cheeses are associated with fungi?
The unique flavor of cheeses such as Roquefort, Camembert, and Brie is produced by the action of members of the genus Penicillium. Roquefort is often referred to as the king of cheeses. It is one of the oldest and best known in the world. This blue cheese has been enjoyed since Roman times and was a favorite of Charlemagne, king of the Franks and emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, 742 to 814. Roquefort is made from sheep's milk that has been exposed to the mold. Penicillium roqueforti and aged for 3 months or more in the limestone caverns of Mount Comelu, near the village of Roquefort in southwestern France. This is the only place true Roquefort can be aged. It has a creamy, rich texture and is pungent, piquant, and salty. It has a creamy white interior with blue veins. The cheese is held together with a snowy white rind. True Roquefort is authenticated by the presence of a red sheep on the emblem of the cheese's wrapper. Penicillium camemberti give Camembert and Brie cheeses their special qualities. Napoleon is said to have christened Camembert cheese with its name. Supposedly the name comes from the Norman village where a farmer's wife first served it to Napoleon. This cheese is formed of cow's milk cheese and has a white, downy rind and a smooth, creamy interior. When perfectly ripe and served at room temperature, the cheese should ooze thickly. Although Brie is made in many places, Brie from the region of the same name, east of Paris, is considered one of the world's finest cheeses by connoisseurs. Similar to Camembert, it has a white, surface-ripened rind and smooth, buttery interior.
What is magnetic declination?
It is the angle between magnetic north and true north at a given point on Earth's surface. It varies at different points on Earth's surface and at different times of the year.
When was the Outer Space Treaty signed?
The United Nations Outer Space Treaty was signed on January 23, 1967. The treaty provides a framework for the exploration and sharing of outer space. It governs the outer space activities of nations that wish to exploit and make use of space. The Moon, and other celestial bodies. It is based on a humanist and pacifist philosophy and on the principle of the non-appropriation of space and the freedom that all nations have to explore and use space. A very large number of countries have signed this agreement, including those from the Western Alliance, the former Eastern Bloc, and non-aligned countries. Space law, or those rules governing the space activities of various countries, international organizations, and private industries, has been evolving since 1957, when the General Assembly of the United Nations created the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, COPUOS. One of its subcommittees was instrumental in drawing up the 1967 Outer Space Treaty.
Who developed psychodrama?
Psychodrama was developed by Jacob L. Moreno, 1892–1974, a psychiatrist born in Romania, who lived and practiced in Vienna until he came to the United States in 1927. He soon began to conduct psychodrama sessions and founded a psychodrama institute in Beacon, New York, in 1934. Largely because of Moreno's efforts, it is practiced worldwide. Psychodrama is defined as a method of group psychotherapy in which personality makeup, interpersonal relationships, conflicts, and emotional problems are explored by means of special dramatic methods.
What is meant by xeriscaping?
A xeriscape, a landscape of low-water use plants, is the modern approach to gardening in areas that experience water shortages.
Is there a national flower for the United States?
The United States adopted the rose as the national flower on October 7, 1986. After many years of deliberation, other flowers suggested were the dogwood, the mountain laurel, and the columbine.
What were floppy disks?
The first floppy disk drive was invented by Alan Shugart, 1930 to 2006, in 1967 at IBM. Floppy disks, also called diskettes, were made of plastic film covered with a magnetic coating, which were enclosed in a non-removable plastic protective envelope. Floppy disks varied in storage capacity from 100,000 bytes to more than 2 megabytes. The three common floppy diskette, sizes varied widely in storage capacity. An 8-inch or 5.25-inch diskette was enclosed in a plastic protective envelope, which did not protect the disk from bending or folding. Parts of the disk surface were also exposed and could be contaminated by fingerprints or dust. These diskettes became known as floppy disks because the packaging of the 5.25-inch disk was a very flexible plastic envelope. The casing on a 3.5-inch floppy disk was rigid plastic, and included a sliding disk guard that protected the disk surface, but allowed it to be exposed when the disk was inserted in the disk drive. This protection, along with the increased data storage capacity, made the 3.5-inch disk the most popular. Zip/R disks were very similar to floppy disks, but the magnetic coating was of much higher quality. They were able to store up to 750 megabytes of data. By the mid-1990s, floppy disks and zip/R disks had become obsolete as computer files and memory required larger storage, and computers were no longer being manufactured with floppy disk drives. These disks can still be accessed by using an external 4-floppy drive reader with a USB connection.
What is technetium?
Technetium, Tc, element 43, is a radioactive metallic element that does not occur naturally either in its pure form or as compounds. It is produced during nuclear fission. A fission product of molybdenum, Mo, element 42. Tc can also occur as a fission product of uranium, U, element 92. It was the first element to be made artificially in 1937 when it was isolated and extracted by Carlo Perrier. 1886 to 1948, and Emilio Segre, 1905 to 1989. Technetium has found significant application in diagnostic imaging and nuclear medicine. Ingested soluble technetium compounds tend to concentrate in the liver and are valuable in labeling and in radiological examination of that organ. Also, by technetium labeling of blood serum components. Diseases involving the circulatory system can be explored.
How much damage might it have done?
Asteroid 2002 M7, a rock 230 feet, 70 meters long, is estimated to have the capability of releasing the energy equivalent of a 4-megaton nuclear bomb.
Are there tides in the solid part of the Earth as well as in its waters?
The solid Earth is distorted about 4.5 to 14 inches. 11.4 to 35.6 centimeters, by the gravitational pull of the Sun and Moon. It is the same gravitational pull that creates the tides of the waters. When the Moon's gravity pulls water on the side of Earth near to it, it pulls the solid body of the Earth on the opposite side away from the water to create bulges on both sides, and causing high tides. These occur every 12.5 hours. Low tides occur in those places from which the water is drained to flow into the two high tide bulges. The Sun causes tides on the Earth that are about 33 to 46% as high as those due to the Moon. During a new moon or a full moon, when the Sun and Moon are in a straight line, the tides of the Moon and the Sun reinforce each other to make high tides higher. These are called spring tides. At the quarter moons, the Sun and Moon are out of step, at right angles. The tides are less extreme than usual. These are called neap tides. Smaller bodies of water, such as lakes, have no tides because the whole body of water is raised all at once, along with the land beneath it.
When was jet stream discovered?
A jet stream is a flat and narrow tube of air that moves more rapidly than the surrounding air. Discovered by World War II bomber pilots flying over Japan and the Mediterranean Sea. Jet streams have become important with the advent of airplanes capable of cruising at over 30,000 feet, 9,144 meters. The currents of air flow from west to east and are usually a few miles deep. Up to 100 miles, 160 kilometers, wide, and well over 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers, in length. The air current must flow at over 57.5 miles, 92 kilometers, per hour. There are two polar jet streams, one in each hemisphere. They move between 30 and 70 degrees latitude, occur at altitudes of 25,000 to 35,000 feet. 7,620 to 10,668 meters, and achieve maximum speeds of over 230 miles, 368 kilometers, per hour. The subtropical jet streams, again one per hemisphere, wander between 20 and 50 degrees latitude. They are found at altitudes of 30,000 to 45,000 feet. 9,144 to 13,715 meters, and have speeds of over 345 miles, 552 kilometers, per hour.
Which two cervical vertebrae allow the head to move?
The first two cervical vertebrae, C1 and C2, allow the head to move. The first cervical vertebra, the C1 or atlas, articulates with the occipital bone of the skull and makes it possible for a person to nod his or her head. The second cervical vertebra, C2, known as the axis, forms a pivot point for the atlas to move the skull in a side-to-side rotation.
How has the classification of organisms changed throughout history?
From Aristotle, 384 to 322 B. CE, to Carolus Linnaeus, 1707 to 1778, scientists who proposed the earliest classification systems divided living organisms into two kingdoms: plants and animals. During the 19th century, Ernst Haeckel, 1834 to 1919, proposed establishing a third kingdom: protistophore. Simple organisms that do not appear to fit in either the plant or animal kingdom. In 1969, R. H. Whittaker, 1920 to 1980, proposed a system of classification based on 5 different kingdoms. The groups Whittaker suggested were the bacteria group Prokaryotae, originally called Monera, Protista; fungi, 4 multicellular forms of non-photosynthetic heterotrophs and single-celled yeasts, Plantae, and Animalia. This classification system is still widely accepted. However, a 6-kingdom system of classification was proposed in 1977 by Carl Woese, 1928. The groups proposed in the 6-kingdom approach are Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. Both for bacteria, Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. In 1981, Woese proposed a classification system based on 3 domains. A level of classification higher than kingdom bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. The domain eukarya is subdivided into 4 kingdoms: Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia.
What are endorphins?
Endorphins and closely related chemicals called enkephalins are part of a larger group called opioids, which have properties similar to drugs such as heroin or morphine. They can act not only as painkillers but also can induce a sense of well-being or euphoria. Clinical applications of endorphin research include possible treatments for some forms of mental illness, treatment or control of pain for chronic pain sufferers, development of new anesthetics, and the development of non-addictive, safe, and effective pain relievers.
Why do ecosystems need decomposers?
While energy flows through ecosystems in only one direction, entering at the producer level and exiting as heat and the transfer of energy as biomass, to consumers, chemical compounds can be reused over and over again. In a well-functioning ecosystem, some organisms make their living by breaking down structures and recycling the compounds. These organisms are known as decomposers.
Does the Moon have an atmosphere?
The Moon does have an atmosphere, however it is very slight, having a density of about 50 atoms per cubic centimeter. Recently, scientists have discovered frozen water on the moon.
Which plants are poisonous to cats?
Certain common houseplants are poisonous to cats: caladium, elephant's ears, Dieffenbachia, dumb cane. Euphorbia pulcherrima, poinsettia, hedera, true ivy, mistletoe oleander philodendron prunus laurocerasus. Common or cherry laurel, rhododendron, azalea, Solanum capuscastrum, winter or false Jerusalem cherry.
How many calories does a person burn while sleeping?
A 150-pound, 68-kilogram, person burns 1 calorie per minute during bed rest. The approximate caloric expenditure of other activities for a person weighing 150 pounds are given below. Actual numbers may vary, depending on the vigor of the exercise, air temperature, clothing, etc.
Why was Niagara Falls shut down for 30 hours in 1848?
The volume of Niagara waters depends on the height of Lake Erie at Buffalo, New York, a factor that varies with the direction and intensity of the wind. Changes of as much as 8 feet, 2.5 meters. In the level of Lake Erie at the Niagara River source have been recorded. On March 29, 1848, a gale drove the floating ice in Lake Erie to the lake outlet, quickly blocking that narrow channel and shutting off a large proportion of the river's flow. Eyewitness accounts stated that the American Falls were passable on foot, but for that day only.
How much does a cloud weigh?
Although they look light and fluffy floating in the sky, clouds actually consist of water droplets and are heavy. A 1 cubic kilometer, 1 cubic kilometer meaning 1 kilometer x 1 kilometer x 1 kilometer or 0.6 miles x 0.6 miles x 0.6 miles. Cumulus cloud has an estimated weight of 2.211 billion pounds, 1.003 billion kilograms. Clouds float because they are suspended on dry air. An equal volume, 1 cubic kilometer, of dry air weighs 2.220 billion pounds, 1.007 billion kilograms. Dry air has a density of 1.007 kilograms/cubic meter while the density of the moist cloud is 1.003 kilograms/cubic meter. Clouds float because they are less dense than the drier air.
What was the first element to be discovered?
Phosphorus was first discovered by German chemist Hennig Brand, c. 1630 c. 1710, in 1669 when he extracted a waxy white substance from urine that glowed in the dark. But Brand did not publish his findings. In 1680, phosphorus was rediscovered by the English chemist Robert Boyle.
Which are the world's largest deserts?
Deserts are distinguished by two general characteristics. First, desert areas receive less than 10 inches of precipitation per year. Second, due to the extreme dryness, there is little plant or animal life in most deserts. Many deserts form a band north and south of the equator at about 20 degrees latitude because moisture-bearing winds do not release their rain over these areas. As the moisture-bearing winds from the higher latitudes approach the equator, their temperatures increase and they rise higher and higher in the atmosphere. When the winds arrive over the equatorial areas and come in contact with the colder parts of Earth's atmosphere, they cool down and release all their water to create the tropical rainforests near the equator. However, other parts of the world, such as Antarctica, are also desert regions. The average annual precipitation in Antarctica is less than 10 inches per year. The Sahara Desert, the world's largest, is 3 times the size of the Mediterranean Sea. In the United States, the largest desert is the Mojave Desert in southern California with an area of 15,000 square miles, 38,900 square kilometers.
How is Henry David Thoreau associated with the environment?
Henry David Thoreau, 1817 to 1862, was a writer and naturalist from New England. His most familiar work, Walden, describes the time he spent in a cabin near Walden Pond in Massachusetts. He is also known for being one of the first to write and lecture on the topic of forest succession. His work, along with that of John Muir, 1838 to 1914, and others, has served to inspire those others to understand the natural world and provide for its conservation.
Who invented Velcro?
The inspiration for Velcro came about when Swiss engineer Georges de Maestral, 1907 to 1990, took a closer look at those annoying cockleburs that stick so well to things like dog fur and your favorite pair of socks. He recreated what he discovered into a new type of fastener.
How many gallons of gasoline are in 1 barrel of oil?
U.S. refineries produce between 19 and 20 gallons of gasoline from 1 barrel, 42 gallons, of crude oil. The remainder of the barrel yields distillate and residual fuel oils, jet fuel, and other petroleum products.
Who has spent the most time in space?
The cosmonaut, Sergei Krikalev, 1958. Has accumulated the most space flight time, 803 days, 9 hours, and 39 minutes in 6 flights. The cosmonaut, Valery Polyakov, 1942. Has spent 438 consecutive days in space from January 8, 1994 to March 22, 1995.
How long does female reproductive cycle last?
The reproductive cycle averages 28 days, but it may last from 24 to 35 days. A cycle of 20 to 45 days is still considered within the range of normalcy. The menstrual phase lasts 5 to 7 days. The preovulatory phase lasts 8 to 11 days, and the postovulatory phase lasts an average of 14 days.
What is an organ?
An organ is a group of several different tissues working together as a unit to perform a specific function or functions. Each organ performs functions that none of the component tissues can perform alone. This cooperative interaction of different tissues is a basic feature of animals, including humans. The heart is an example of an organ. It consists of cardiac muscle wrapped in connective tissue. The heart chambers are lined with epithelium. Nerve tissue controls the rhythmic contractions of the cardiac muscles.
What is a perfect number?
A perfect number is a number equal to the sum of all its proper divisors, divisors smaller than the number, including 1. The number 6 is the smallest perfect number. The sum of its divisors 1, 2, and 3 equals 6. The next three perfect numbers are 28, 496, and 8126. No odd perfect numbers are known. The largest known perfect number is 230213766, 230213777, 1. It was discovered in 2001.
What invertebrate lives in both marine and fresh waters and is one of the most important of all animals?
Copepods, tiny crustaceans, are the link between the photosynthetic life in the ocean or pond and the rest of the aquatic food web. They are primary consumers grazing on algae in the waters of the oceans and ponds. These organisms, among the most abundant multicellular animals on Earth. are then consumed by a variety of small predators, which are eaten by larger predators, and so on. Virtually all animal life in the ocean depends on the copepods, either directly or indirectly. Although humans do not eat copepods directly, our sources of food from the ocean would disappear without the copepods.
What is the significance of the recycling symbol?
The familiar recycling symbol consists of 3 arrows representing the 3 components of recycling.
What is cloud seeding?
Cloud seeding is an attempt to modify the weather to produce precipitation. A cloud contains water droplets and ice crystals. Precipitation occurs when the ice crystals grow large enough to fall as rain, snow, hail, or other precipitation. Unless the conditions are right for ice crystals to grow, precipitation does not occur. Cloud seeding is an attempt to convert the supercooled droplets of liquid water in a cloud to ice crystals. Dry ice, solid carbon dioxide, and silver iodide are the substances most often used to seed clouds to transform the water droplets to ice crystals. Seeding is most efficient when the seeding agent is dropped from an airplane on the top of a cloud.
What are killer bees?
Africanized honeybees. The term entomologists prefer rather than killer bees are a hybrid originating in Brazil, where African honeybees were imported in 1956. The breeders, hoping to produce a bee better suited to producing more honey in the tropics, instead found that African bees soon hybridized with and mostly displaced the familiar European honeybees. Although they produce more honey, Africanized honeybees, Apis mellifera scutellata, also are more dangerous than European bees because they attack intruders in greater numbers. Since their introduction, they have been responsible for approximately 1,000 human deaths. In addition to such safety issues, concern is growing regarding the effect of possible hybridization on the U.S. beekeeping industry. In October 1990, the bees crossed the Mexican border into the United States. They reached Arizona in 1993. In 1996, 6 years after their arrival in the United States, Africanized honeybees could be found in parts of Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California. As of 2009, Africanized honeybees are also found in Nevada, Utah, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Their migration northward has slowed partially because they are a tropical insect and cannot live in colder climates. Experts have suggested 2 possible ways of limiting the spread of the Africanized honeybees. The first is drone flooding, a process by which large numbers of European drones are kept in areas where commercially reared European queen bees mate. thereby ensuring that only limited mating occurs between Africanized drones and European queens. The second method is frequent requeening, in which a beekeeper replaces a colony's queen with one of his or her own choosing. The beekeeper can then be assured that the queens are European and that they have already mated with European drones.
What are the largest and smallest organelles in a cell?
The largest organelle in a cell is the nucleus. The next largest organelle would be the chloroplast, which is substantially bigger than a mitochondrion. The smallest organelle in a cell is the ribosome.
What is a computer virus and how is it spread?
Taken from the obvious analogy with biological viruses. A computer virus is a name for a type of computer program that searches out uninfected computers, infects them by causing them to execute the virus, and then attempts to spread to other computers. A virus does two things: execute code on a computer, and spread to other computers. The executed code can accomplish anything that a regular computer program can do. It can delete files, send emails, install programs, and can copy information from one place to another. These actions can happen immediately or after some set delay. It is often not noticed that a virus has infected a computer, because it will mimic the actual actions of the infected computer. By the time it is recognized that the computer is infected, much damage may have occurred. Earliest computer viruses spread via physical media, such as floppy disks. Modern viruses propagate rapidly throughout the Internet. In May 2000, the Eluvea virus made international headlines as it spread around the world in a single day, crashing millions of computers and costing approximately $5 billion in economic damages. Since then, criminals have learned to prevent their viruses from crashing computers, making detection of these viruses much more difficult. The highly advanced CONF worm, first detected in 2008, operates silently, ensuring that the typical computer user won't realize that the virus is present.
What are designer drugs, such as China White?
Designer drugs are synthesized chemicals that resemble such available narcotics as fentanyl and meperidine. China White, 3-methylfentanyl, is one of these drugs and is an analog of fentanyl. It is 3,000 times more potent than morphine. Even small amounts can be fatal, and it has been responsible for more than 100 overdose deaths in California.
Do dogs and cats have good memories?
Dogs do have long-term memories, especially for those whom they love. Cats have a memory for things that are important to their lives. Some cats seem to have extraordinary memories for finding places. Taken away from their homes, they seem able to remember where they live. The key to this homing ability could be a built-in celestial navigation, similar to that used by birds. Or the cat's navigational ability could be attributed to the cat's sensitivity to Earth's magnetic fields. When magnets are attached to cats, their normal navigational skills are disrupted.
What is the law of complementary base pairing?
The law of complementary base pairing refers to the pairing of nitrogenous bases in a specific manner. Purines pair with pyrimidines. More specifically, adenine must always pair with thymine, and guanine must always pair with cytosine. The basis of this law came from the data obtained by Edwin Chargaff. 1905 to 2002, and is known as Chargaff's law, or rule.
Why is titanium dioxide the most widely used white pigment?
Titanium dioxide, TO2, also known as titania, titanic anhydride, titanium oxide, or titanium white, has become the predominant white pigment in the world because of its high refractive index, lack of absorption of visible light, ability to be produced in the right size range, and its stability. It is the whitest known pigment, unrivaled for color, opacity, stain resistance, and durability. It is also non-toxic. The main consuming industries are paint, printing inks, plastics, and ceramics. Titanium dioxide is also used in the manufacture of floor coverings, paper, rubber, and welding rods.
How many different kinds of faults have been identified?
Faults are fractures in Earth's crust. Faults are classified as normal, reverse, or strike slip. Normal faults occur when the end of one plate slides vertically down the end of another. Reverse faults occur when one plate slides vertically up the end of another. A strike slip fault occurs when two plate ends slide past each other horizontally. In an oblique fault there is plate movement vertically and horizontally at the same time.
Where are the largest wind farms?
Wind turbines harness the wind's energy to generate electricity. The turbines, consisting of 2 or 3 blades, are mounted on tall towers to capture the wind. Wind turbines can stand alone for water pumping, communications, or for use by individual homeowners or farmers to supply electric power. Wind farms are clusters of wind turbines that generate electricity. The largest wind farms in the United States are in Texas, which has a total installed capacity of 7,118 megawatts.
Which risk factors affect one's health?
Such characteristics as age, gender, work, family history, behavior, and body chemistry are some of the factors to consider when deciding whether one is at risk for various conditions. Some risk factors are statistical, describing trends among large groups of people but not giving information about what will happen to individuals. Other risk factors might be described as causative exposure to them. Has a direct effect on whether or not the person will become sick.
What first aid measures can be used for a bite by a black widow spider?
The black widow spider, Latrodectus mactans, is common throughout the United States. Its bite is severely poisonous, but no first aid measures are of value. Age, body size, and degree of sensitivity determine the severity of symptoms, which include an initial pinprick with a dull numbing pain, followed by swelling. An ice cube may be placed over the bite to relieve pain. Between 10 and 40 minutes after the bite, severe abdominal pain and rigidity of stomach muscles develop. Muscle spasms in the extremities, ascending paralysis, and difficulty in swallowing and breathing may follow. The mortality rate is less than 1%, but anyone who has been bitten should see a doctor. The elderly, infants, and those with allergies are most at risk and may require hospitalization.